Turn off the lights, dear friend. Let the room sink into a gentle darkness, soft as velvet. No more blue light from a screen. No more hurried notifications from the world outside. Now there is only the sound of your own breath, steady, light, dissolving into the silence like a thin wisp of smoke. You don't need to worry about anything anymore. The deadlines, the burdens of work, the chaotic worries, they can all wait patiently until the sun rises. This moment belongs only to you, to the gentle night, and to a story waiting to begin. Imagine you are gently stepping out of the present, retreating step by step onto the rough stone path of a medieval village that has fallen asleep. The air is cool, carrying the scent of damp straw after a rain and the warm aroma of wood smoke, all mingled together. A fragrance of simple life. Far in the distance, in the night mist, a single torch hanging before a doorway flickers, like a small lost star. From a smoke-stained wooden house, the sound of boisterous laughter echoes out, not as a nuisance, but as a warm invitation. There, strangers from all walks of life gather together, seeking a little shared warmth. An old wooden sign, painted with a crude image of a beer barrel, sways gently in the night breeze. As you draw near, the door creaks open, and a stream of golden light and warmth immediately rushes out to embrace you. Tonight, you will sit down among them. Not to hurry or rush, but simply to listen, to breathe slowly, and to let sleep gradually find you, gently taking hold, like the heat of the fire slowly spreading through this old tavern. Stepping inside, the heat from the hearth immediately envelops you, chasing away the damp chill of the night street. The fire crackles and dances, casting fantastical shadows on the wooden walls, which have turned black from smoke, transforming the cramped space into a world both chaotic and strangely cozy. The floor is just packed earth, sprinkled with a thick layer of straw to soak up spilled beer and mud. The tables and chairs are a mismatched collection, each with its own character. One wobbles, another is propped up with a broken brick, and another leans as if about to collapse after a long night of service. But all of them, no matter how old, are arranged around the hearth, the tavern's fiery heart. Whoever sits closest to the flames is tacitly considered important, or at least the earliest to arrive. A newcomer like you usually chooses a creaky chair on the edge of the room, where the warmth is just a distant echo, but it's enough to not feel out of place. High above, the wooden beams are glossy black with smoke. Hanging between them are bunches of dried onions, clusters of garlic, and a few sprigs of withered herbs, serving both the kitchen and as a comfort to old beliefs about warding off evil spirits. Candles are stuck into old glass bottles or coconut shells, casting flickering patches of light that make the shadows of people on the wall dance and distort, as lively as actors in a silent play. Though it seems disorderly, this place has surprisingly clear, unwritten rules. Don't take a seat by the fire unless invited. Don't spill beer on a mercenary's tunic. Don't touch anyone's coin purse left on the table. And absolutely, steer clear of talk about religion or politics, unless you want a wooden chair suddenly flying in your direction. Each group of patrons keeps a natural distance. Soldiers gather in one corner, whispering of battles. Merchants huddle in another, discussing prices. And farmers crowd in the middle, talking loudly about harvests and the weather. The boundary is unspoken, but everyone understands it. It is this silent division, that keeps the chaotic space functioning in an orderly way. You sit quietly, your back against the rough wall, observing the scene as if it has existed for hundreds of years. The gruff laughter, the cheerful curses, the out-of-tune music mingle with the sour smell of ale and wood smoke. Strangely, in the midst of this mess, you feel safe. Here, people don't need to pretend. They just need a seat, a tankard of ale, and a little warmth to get through the night. And in the midst of this orderly chaos, there is a quiet focal point, a sturdy pillar that keeps everything from collapsing. That is the innkeeper, the one who stands behind the wooden counter, both silent and powerful. They don't need to speak much. A sharp glance is enough to make a drunken man stop in his tracks. A light tap of a wooden ladle against the side of a cask is enough to quiet the entire noisy room for a moment. In the symphony of laughter and clinking tankards, they are the invisible conductor, the thread that keeps the room from falling into true chaos. Their appearance is unique. It could be a man as wide as a beer barrel, with calloused hands as tough as oak. It could also be a trim woman, with eyes sharper than a kitchen knife. Whatever their form, anyone who enters knows immediately. This is the true master of this place. Their memory replaces any ledger. Who drank how many tankards, who still owes money, who caused trouble last week. It is all recorded clearly in their mind. Newcomers are often surprised, but the regulars understand. In the eyes of the innkeeper, no detail escapes. They are also the artist who cultivates the atmosphere. When the room grows tense, they will add a little joke. When a regular looks weary, they will quietly pour an extra sip of sweet mead. When the singing becomes too off-key, they will give a subtle signal to the musician to change the tune. And just like that, the clamor becomes a steady current, not too quiet, not too rowdy. You sit in your corner, observing them. Amidst the flickering firelight, that figure stands as firm as a pillar supporting the entire roof. Thanks to that presence, people can laugh, sing, or even fall asleep at their tables without fear. The innkeeper is like an unseen night watchman, quietly standing guard over the entire room's sleep. From those steady hands, the first thing you seek is poured. Sitting down at the rough wooden table, what everyone craves is a tankard of something to warm the belly and soothe the throat. But in a medieval tavern, the menu isn't written down, and there certainly isn't a wooden board hanging on the wall. Your choice is to ask the innkeeper and accept a bit of controlled risk. Ale is the most common drink, the soul of the tavern. It's a cloudy brew, brownish gold in color, with a layer of bubbles dancing on the rim. It isn't crystal clear like modern beer, nor is it chilled in an ice box. Instead, the ale warms to the temperature of the room, carrying the slightly sour smell of yeast and the residual taste of grain. The first sip might be a bit harsh, a bit bitter, but it soothes a throat made raw by a day of dust. Besides ale, there is mead, sweeter, fragrant with wildflowers, but it can also make your head spin if you drink too much. Sour cider is lighter, fresher, as if carrying an entire autumn orchard in the tankard. Red wine is also available, but it's often watered down, so much so that a connoisseur might call it wine water. And yet, on a cold winter's night, even that thin liquid is enough to bring a blush to the cheeks. Some dare to ask for water. But in a tavern, water isn't always a safe choice. The village well might be contaminated, The storage barrel may not have been cleaned for a long time. So ironically, drinking ale is sometimes less risky than drinking water. The drinking vessels are also mismatched. Some are made of wood, thick and heavy in the hand. Some are earthenware with chipped rims. Still others are hollowed-out horns, polished smooth. You lift your cup, feel the warmth spread through your hand, and let the shimmering liquid touch your tongue. The scent of yeast, the sweet and sour taste, the warmth. It all merges into a thin, invisible blanket, covering your mind, slowly pulling you into a deep state of relaxation. In this place, a drink is not meant for sophisticated tasting. It is simply for connecting, for sharing, for soothing a hoarse throat, and for making the stories last one more night. One more sip, and you feel your eyes slowly closing, despite the noise still echoing around you. The warmth of the ale spreads, awakening a gnawing hunger in your belly. After a few sips, your stomach begins to make its needs known. In a medieval tavern, food is not abundant, but there is always a large stew pot sitting next to the hearth. They call it pottage, a dish that is at once dinner, breakfast, and often the next day's lunch as well. That cast iron pot is rarely washed out completely. Day after day, they just add more water, more vegetables, and a bit of scrap meat if they're lucky. Because of this, its flavor is like a long song that never ends, changing just a little each day. One day you might find a few turnips in your bowl. Another day a stray chicken bone might appear. But it is always hot, thick, and enough to warm the body from the inside out. They ladle the pottage with a large wooden spoon into rough earthenware bowls. You take your spoon, blow gently on the steam, and take a sip. The taste of overcooked vegetables mingles with the smoke from the hearth. It's a little sweet from carrots, a little bitter from wild greens. It isn't refined or elegant, but it brings a sense of fullness, a reassurance that you will survive another day. The bread that comes with it is usually hard, dark-colored, and made from barley or rye. Some loaves are so dry that you have to soak them in the pottage just to be able to chew them. But it is this very hardness that allows the bread to last longer, making it a reliable companion on lean days. People often joke that this bread can be used both for eating and as a weapon in a brawl. If you hit someone with it, it would surely hurt as much as a wooden club. Occasionally, a piece of cheese appears on the table. Its smell is quite strong and its taste a bit sour, but it perfectly enhances the flavor of the ale. Luckier patrons might be able to order a slice of salt-cured meat, so salty it dries out your throat. But when eaten with the bread, it becomes an indescribable delicacy. You sit there, holding the bowl of hot stew, chewing on a piece of hard bread, listening to the crackle of the fire. The waves of heat spread from your mouth down to your stomach, making your eyes grow heavier and heavier. In a place where a meal revolves around just a few simple dishes, warmth is the most important ingredient. And right now you feel that you have found it. When your stomach is warm and hunger has receded, you sit quietly in your corner and slowly realize the tavern is not just a place to eat and drink. It is a living piece of music, a composition no one wrote, with no conductor, but one that plays steadily every night, unmistakably. The first and most fundamental sound always comes from the hearth. The fire crackles and pops, dry logs split in the flames, creating a warm, continuous backing track. Upon this foundation, The sound of wooden tankards clashing together rings out like impromptu bass notes, sometimes gentle, sometimes sharp. At a nearby table, someone lets out a throaty laugh, his voice booming like a drum. That laugh brings a few affectionate curses, which immediately blend into the room's general rhythm. From another corner, a voice begins to sing, a little offbeat, a little out of tune, but no one cares. A simple lute tries to follow along, its strings sometimes buzzing, sometimes hitting a shrill note, but it's still enough to draw listeners into its simple, familiar melody. The heavy thud of footsteps on the earthen floor mingles with the creak of wooden chairs whenever someone moves. A dog barks once from outside the door, then falls silent when someone throws it a bone. In the distance, the bleating of a goat from the pen behind the tavern, an out-of-place sound that somehow makes the whole scene more alive. Amidst these overlapping layers of sound, a moment of silence sometimes appears unexpectedly. Just for a few seconds, when a story ends, when the singing pauses, when the fire in the hearth dies down, then immediately after, the room erupts with noise again, like a surging wave, powerful and unstoppable. That brief silence is like a breath, giving this chaotic music a rhythm, with its own rises and falls. As you listen, you realize that the individual sounds aren't separate, but are intricately connected, like different instruments in a strange orchestra. It's not perfect, not refined, but it is brimming with life. And it is this rhythmic chaos, repeating like the heartbeat of the village, that is lulling you into an unexpected sense of security. Your eyelids grow heavy, your breathing slows. The noise is no longer a bothersome clamor, but has transformed into a rustic lullaby. You relax your body, letting the sounds of the tavern envelop you like a thick, warm musical blanket. That symphony is created by people, and as your eyes adjust to the firelight, their faces come into focus. The tavern is like a living newsfeed, where every person is a story, every glance a piece of news. You only need to sit still and listen, and everything comes to you. At the table closest to the hearth, a few farmers are talking loudly. Their faces are flushed, as much from the ale as from the blazing heat. They talk about their cattle, about a failed harvest, about a flooded field. One man gestures wildly, telling a story about how his prized cow gave birth to a calf right in the middle of a storm, and the whole tavern bursts into laughter, a rough but deeply sincere sound. In another corner, a few mercenaries sit with their arms crossed. They wear frayed cloaks, their swords resting right beside them. A tall, scarred man is telling a tale of a battle in a faraway land, spitting ale with every word. The story sounds half true, half invented. There are fire-breathing dragons, knights on white horses, and of course, the part where he single-handedly struck down 3 enemies in the blink of an eye. The listeners around him nod along, not because they believe him, but because they enjoy letting their imaginations run wild. Near the counter are a few merchants. Their clothes are made of better fabric, and they wear shiny bronze rings on their fingers. They whisper to each other about the price of salt, of wool, of the next shipment heading to the big market. Their voices are low, but their eyes are sharp, glancing at everyone who comes and goes, as if weighing the whole world in a single frown. By the window sits a silent figure, his hood pulled low. No one knows who he is, only that whenever someone looks his way, his gaze quickly darts away. People like that often carry secrets, and it's their very silence that makes everyone else pay more attention. In a dark corner near the stairs, a group of children are hiding like feral cats. They have no chairs, just squatting together, giggling, waiting for a chance to snatch a piece of leftover bread that falls to the floor. Their eyes shine brightly in the firelight, reflecting a tireless curiosity. Looking around, you realize the tavern is the entire village miniaturized. Farmers, soldiers, merchants, strangers, and children, all crowded into one smoky room. Each person brings a story, a piece of news, a unique rhythm. And when those sounds mix together, it becomes a newsfeed that requires no ink, no paper. You sit quietly, letting it all flow past you like a river. No need to interrupt, no need to rush. The world just drifts by, slowly, noisily, but with a steady rhythm. And in that moment, you feel like you belong here, at least for one night. As the stories dwindle, another pastime begins. In a corner of a table, hidden behind the hearth, a steady clicking sound arises. It's the sound of bone dice tumbling, of a few coins sliding across the rough tabletop. Gambling in the tavern is not a luxurious hobby. It's simply a way to make the long night less tedious. The dice are made from pieces of sheep bone, ground into slightly misshapen cubes that make a dry, clattering sound when they roll. The cards are hand-drawn, every one of them with worn corners and faded colors, sometimes with a few cards missing from the deck. But no one complains. The players just need an excuse to gather, to laugh, and to wait for a bit of luck to pass by. The winner slaps his hand on the table, making the coins jingle. The loser laughs heartily, looking up at the ceiling and complaining to the whole room. Some are clever, knowing when to lose to keep their friends playing longer. Others cheat blatantly, their hands quicker than the eye. But even cheating is part of the fun, as long as it's not too obvious. The wagers here aren't just money. Sometimes it's a piece of bread, a sip of ale, a slice of cured meat. More daring players might bet their leather belt, or even the chicken tucked under their arm. And when the chicken unexpectedly lets out a terrified squawk, in the middle of the game, the whole table erupts in laughter. You sit and watch, listening to the roll of the dice, the clink of coins, the bursts of laughter. The rhythm repeats itself, as steady as a strange lullaby. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses, because the ultimate goal isn't to get rich, but to kill time, to make a cold night pass more easily. Amidst the noise, you feel your eyes drooping. The clicking of the dice now sounds like the soft patter of rain on the eaves. The sound of coins rolling on the table sounds like the wind slipping through the thatched roof. The whole game has transformed into a steady, rhythmic tune, lulling your mind into a gentle, floating state. When the dice stop rolling and the coins have settled on the table, another kind of sound gradually rises to fill the void. From a corner of the room, a minstrel cradles an old lute, its strings frayed, its wooden body showing a few cracks. The sound of the instrument emerges, out of tune in places, but no one minds. In the tavern, perfection is not necessary. What's important is that someone is filling the emptiness of the long night. The minstrel begins to sing, telling a tale of a knight who has gone far away, of a princess who waits day and night. His voice is hoarse, sometimes running out of breath, but the firelight helps the story to shimmer. The listeners sip their ale and nod along to the music, as if they themselves had witnessed those adventures. Then, when the song comes to a temporary pause, an inebriated patron stands up. His cheeks are red, his eyes are bright, and he waves his hands as he tells a story of his own. Maybe it's about a bountiful harvest, maybe about a battle that few would believe. Each sentence is embellished with a little exaggeration, each detail made a bit more magical. But no one interrupts. In the tavern, the truth is not as important as whether the story can make people forget the cold outside. Laughter follows laughter. Songs are interwoven with tales. Sometimes the whole room joins in to sing a chorus of an old refrain, repeating it over and over like a collective lullaby. Some tap the rhythm on the table, others whistle, and the children giggle, all of it merging into a thick current of sound, flowing steadily and warmly. You sit there, letting the sound wash over you. The stories, the music, the singing, they all blend together, and it's no longer clear what is real and what is imagined. They are just a current, gently carrying your mind away from the worries of daily life. Your eyelids slowly close, but your ears can still hear the music and the laughter, like the sound of gentle waves lapping on a distant shore. Woven into the haze of ale smoke and the out-of-tune music, another melody sneaks in, the melody of glances. The tavern, however noisy, is still a place where people find each other, sometimes through just a clumsy smile, sometimes through just a brief touch of hands. At a table near the hearth, a young soldier, his cheeks flushed with ale, is trying to utter a compliment. It's not, "You are as beautiful as a painting," nor is it, "You are like a star," but simply, "You're even warmer than this hearth." The whole table laughs, the girl laughs too, and just like that, the clumsy phrase becomes a starting point. At another table, a young farmer is handing a bowl of hot soup to the weaver's daughter. His hand trembles slightly, causing the soup to slosh over the side and drip onto the wooden table. They both laugh, and the people around them laugh even louder. In an instant, that clumsy bowl of soup became an invisible thread, pulling them closer. It's not just between men and women. Sometimes the flirting is just gruff jokes between friends. A slap on the back, a teasing remark, and then everyone is bent over with laughter. Sometimes these are long-standing acquaintances. Sometimes it's just a spark in the night. But on that night, in this stuffy, warm space, these fragile connections are enough to make people feel a little less alone. You sit quietly, observing these small moments. They are not legendary romances, nor are they romantic ballads. They are just little sparks flashing in the noise. And strangely, it is these sparks that make the tavern brighter than the fire in the hearth. Your eyes slowly close, leaving behind the echo of laughter and glances. In the chaos, in the spilled soup, in the clumsy compliment, people still find a way to connect, even if only for a fleeting moment. But not every night passes peacefully. In the tavern, sometimes all it takes is one wrong word, one spilled tankard of ale, or a look that lingers a moment too long, and trouble begins. At first, it's just louder laughter, tables and chairs being shoved around a bit more forcefully. Then a chair tips over, a tankard slips from a hand and shatters on the floor. And just like that, the whole room seems to receive a silent command. A brawl has begun. Wooden chairs fly over people's heads. Straw from the floor scatters like sparrows. Some throw punches, some fall flat on their backs, and others roll around on the ground, still laughing. The strong ones grab their opponent's collar. The more cunning ones pretend to break up the fight, then take the opportunity to pick up any dropped coins. The strange thing is that even in the chaos, there is an invisible line. Daggers rarely leave their sheaths. No one dares to draw a sword in the tavern. The most common weapons remain hard bread and wooden chairs. So despite the collisions and loud noises, the brawl usually ends as quickly as it began. And when the innkeeper strikes a ladle hard against a beer cask, the entire room falls silent. The one who was just being aggressive backs down. The one who had just fallen gets up, dusting himself off. A moment later, laughter rings out again. Tankards are refilled, as if nothing had just happened. The bruises will fade, the broken chairs will be mended, and the furniture today just has to consider it a bad day. You sit there, watching it all like a fleeting play. A brawl in the tavern is not a disaster. It is a part of the rhythm of life. It's like a strong gust of wind that blows through and then disappears, leaving the fire in the hearth still burning, the music playing again, and the warm atmosphere returning. Your eyelids feel heavy, and you realize, even in chaos, there is an underlying order here. And it is this brief burst of commotion that makes the quiet moment that follows all the sweeter. As the fun downstairs gradually subsides, many people begin to think of sleep. In the tavern, sleeping is not a private affair. In the loft, there is a large room with a low ceiling, where all the overnight guests lie crowded together. The stairs leading up to it creak with every step, as if complaining about the thousands of footsteps they have had to bear. You make your way up by the dim candlelight, your hand on the worn smooth banister, the wood cold and rough. The attic door opens, and a mingled scent of dry straw, damp woolen cloaks, and old smoke wafts out. Not exactly pleasant, but strangely warm. The mattresses here are not made of springs, and certainly not soft cotton. They are sacks stuffed with straw, laid out in a long row on the wooden floor. Those who arrive first get a spot near the wall. Those who come later have to squeeze in the middle. Everyone curls up in their cloaks, shoes still on, daggers tucked under their pillows, as a habit of self-preservation. The sound of snoring begins even before the sound of steady breathing. Some people snore heavily, others just make soft wheezing sounds. Occasionally, someone shifting in their sleep makes the floorboards groan, but no one is bothered. In that room, all the little sounds combine to form a slumberous, rhythmic, and hazy lullaby. If they can't afford a spot, guests can sleep downstairs, on a bench, or right next to the cooling hearth. Some even choose to crawl under a table where the darkness conceals them, as long as there's a place to stretch out. Here, sleep is not a fancy affair. You just need to close your eyes, and no matter where you are, the night will take you in. You lie down on the straw mattress, listening to the fire downstairs slowly dying down, listening to the wind whistling through the cracks in the door. And then you drift off into a hazy wave of dreams. In that moment, you understand that the tavern is not just a place for eating, drinking, laughing, and brawling. It is also a temporary shelter, a place where strangers can lie side by side, sharing the same air, and find a brief moment of peace in a long night. In the communal room upstairs, darkness gradually fills the space. Only a few candles cast a dim glow, their flickering flames illuminating faces heavy with exhaustion. And then the tavern begins to sing its own lullaby. The sound of snoring rises from all sides, its pitch and rhythm like strange instruments. One person snores as steadily as a drum beat. Another's is long and drawn out like an old flute, while another occasionally snorts, adding a percussive note to the melody. It all blends into a composition no one arranged, but one that sounds strangely familiar. Downstairs, the hearth has quieted down, with only the red embers breathing softly, making small popping sounds. That sound drifts up to the loft, mixing with the breath of the sleeping people, creating a warm, gentle background, like the sound of distant rain. Outside the window, the wind whistles softly through the cracks in the wood, carrying the smell of the damp night and a hint of cold. Occasionally, a rooster crows early, or a dog barks in the distance, but all of it is swallowed up by the thick wall of sound of collective sleep. You lie still, your eyes closed, your ears clearly hearing each overlapping layer of sound. There is no more boisterous laughter, no more flying chairs or overturned tables. There is only the gentle blend of breath, of glowing embers, and of the night wind. They intertwine softly, patiently, like an invisible hand patting you to sleep. And so, in a place that seemed chaotic, you find something incredibly rare. A wordless lullaby, humming in the darkness. That song not only carries you into sleep, but it also embraces the entire room, letting strangers and acquaintances alike drift off in the same shared rhythm of a dream. The sky is not yet bright, but a pale gray light has begun to filter through the cracks in the wooden planks. The communal room stirs with the familiar sounds of a medieval morning. The rustle of people turning over, the soft groan of floorboards, the sound of a snore being cut off as someone coughs gently. The smoky smell from the hearth downstairs still lingers, mixed with a scent of damp cloaks and straw that has been trampled all night. A few curious chickens wander in through the open door, clucking right next to someone, which makes them laugh before burying their head back in their cloak to sleep a little longer. You sit up, your back stiff from the straw mattress, your limbs aching from being crowded. Looking around, many people are still asleep, while some have already gone downstairs. The sound of a ladle hitting a cask echoes up. The familiar rhythm of the innkeeper, this time not to quell a riot, but to signal that breakfast is ready. Breakfast at the tavern is anything but elaborate. A bowl of pottage reheated from last night, thinner, blander, but still warm. The lucky ones get a piece of hard bread to go with it. Those who aren't get only a sip of watered-down ale. Some might call it a slightly failed dawn, starting the day with old, unappetizing food. But when your stomach is empty, even that is enough to give you strength. You pick up your bowl, take a sip of the bland stew, and listen to the wind blowing outside the door. The smell of the cold early morning rushes in, waking up your eyes. The people around you are slowly putting on their cloaks, tightening their belts, and checking their coin purses, which are usually much lighter after a night of gambling, drinking, and laughing. Yet no one seems sad. Everyone is preparing to step into a new day, carrying with them a little leftover intoxication, a few unfinished stories. The small failures of the morning, an empty stomach, a heavy head, are just a familiar part of the cycle of life. You look around one last time, seeing the room still hazy with smoke, the faces still shrouded in the early morning shadows. And you realize the dawn at the tavern is not a glorious new beginning, but just the next breath, slow enough, steady enough, for people to keep walking through another long day. And as you prepare to leave, you ask yourself, why is it that a place like this, which from the outside is just a smoke-stained wooden house with a messy straw floor smelling of sweat, ale, and cured meat, can become the heart of an entire community? Here, news travels faster than in any church, market fair, or town hall. A merchant just returned from a distant market can tell stories about the price of salt and wool. A mercenary will whisper about a new war that has broken out. Even the most baseless rumors sprout from here, then spread throughout the village like seeds on the wind. The tavern is also a place where social classes are temporarily erased. A farmer can sit at the same table as a merchant. A mercenary can share a laugh with a blacksmith. Although clear boundaries exist out there, within these smoke-stained walls, everyone becomes a companion for the night. A tankard of ale, a bowl of stew, a story, that's enough to bring people closer. It is also here that many deals are made. A handshake across a beer-soaked wooden table can seal a sale, a hiring, or even a marriage. No need for papers, no need for seals, just a nod in the firelight and a decisive clink of tankards. And above all, the tavern is a place for people to feel that they are not alone. After a long day in the fields, on the road, or in a workshop, everyone needs a place to hear laughter, to tell their own story, to see that others are also going through a life that is just as difficult. You sit quietly and you feel it. This place is not clean, not luxurious, but it keeps people connected, allowing lonely hearts to beat together in one rhythm. Perhaps that is the rare purity of the tavern. It doesn't need to be beautiful, it just needs to be a place where people can find each other. When the dawn has fully arrived, the tavern is no longer as noisy as the night before. The wooden tables are still stained with spilled ale. The chairs are askew, and straw is scattered on the floor. The innkeeper sighs, but it's a routine part of every morning. The tavern will be cleaned up, superficially. More firewood will be stacked, and preparations will be made for another night. You put on your cloak and step out the door. The smell of smoke still clings to the fabric. The sour scent of ale still lingers around your collar. Outside, the damp stone path opens up. The morning mist still hangs in the air, and a cool breeze blows past. But in your pocket, in your mind, you carry more than just the smell of smoke. You carry a story. That story might be just a small snippet about the farmer boasting about his cattle, an out-of-tune song, a bowl of spilled soup, or a chair that flew up and then fell down. These details may seem trivial, but when pieced together, they become a memory. A complete night in the tavern, with all its laughter, noise, chaos, and moments of peace. You look back and see the wooden sign with a painted beer barrel, still swaying in the wind. The early morning light shines on it, making the tavern look simple, small, and unremarkable. But you know that inside it is an entire world. A world where people come to find each other, to find a little warmth, to find a brief shelter from a harsh life. You smile softly. Perhaps one day, when night falls and the wind howls outside again, you will return here. Because there is no place that is as dirty, as noisy, as warm, and as real as a medieval tavern. So tonight you have walked with me through a medieval tavern, a place with the smell of smoke stained into the walls, the sour scent of ale in the tankards, the sound of gruff laughter, the creak of wooden chairs on the floor, and the simple but sincere stories. Now let it all settle. No more clinking tankards, no more rolling dice, no more flying chairs or off-key songs. All that remains is the warmth in your memory and your own slow, steady breath. You don't need to think about anything else. There is nothing that must be done, nothing to rush for. The whole world outside can wait. Right now, there is only you, the gentle darkness in the room, and the sleep that is opening its arms to welcome you. Sleep deeply, dear friend. May you have a peaceful, warm, and sweet night, like the hearth fire that lulled us in the story that has just passed. See you in your dreams.